business life is a journey, and if what you're doing is not working right now, or if you've had a similar crash type situation in your business or your job or any part of your life, you can learn from it. You need to learn from it. You do need to pick yourself up.
The Crazy Picker Life with Wheeler, Dealer, and Banana Peeler.
Good afternoon, fellow pickers and would-be adventurers. Dealer here with the Sunday edition of the Crazy Picker Life. Well, our weather has taken a turn, and although it's 50 and I think it almost hit 60 degrees today, cloudy, damp, and windy, like 25 mile an hour gusts and 15 mile an hour constant wind. And so no family adventure today. The kids went outside and played football and scootered around, and Lana and I actually went for a mile walk or something. We bundled up and went out, and that was nice to get out and do that. No traveling today, just a hang low day here. I'm in the afternoon, snuck away to record this video, and I'm gonna go home and cook some meatballs and spaghetti sauce and whatever hors d'oeuvres and things that I picked up at Whole Foods, and we're gonna have a nice dinner, and then I guess there's gonna be some football, and I think we pulled out the chess and checkers table, and I've got some competitors. Banana Peeler's real competitive with chess. He's 12. Wheeler's good at chess, but he gets frustrated, and then he's beatable. And then Kate hasn't played in a while. We've got Elizabeth, who's 5, is just mesmerized by checkers and chess. So I think she's going to be the next superstar. I actually played the first game of checkers with her today, and she's just all excited about that. So just a general slow family evening coming up here on Sunday. Okay, so I've got my I don't know what I like about this Brew Dr. Kombucha. It's a green tea, I don't know how to describe it. Some kind of health drink. Every time I drink it, I'm kind of like, that's really weird tasting and okay, and makes me feel all right, I guess. I don't, and then I buy more of them, so I don't know what it is. I try to get them when they're on sale, because full-blown retail at Whole Foods are like $4 something, and then you can get them on sale and you can pick up a bunch of them. I think they even have like a super high level weird one. I haven't tried that one yet. I can't do the $6 or whatever. But anyway, once in a while I'll have one of these. So I'm not only a Rare Beer Club member, I tend to buy all kinds of, I like the liquids. I like liquid stuff. Liquids, I'll share a secret. I'm sure many of you know it, but liquids are more absorbable in your body for energy, nutrition. Bad stuff absorbs better through liquids, so it can go both ways. But I make a lot of shakes and smoothies with good, fresh, organic vegetables and fruits, and some protein powders, some high-level vitamin stuff. People wonder how I keep going, have all this energy and all that. I mean, I do go out of my way to have nutrition. I don't just drink beer. It's not my secret. Okay, let's get on with this. So I'm in my Schlitz corner here, my sign corner. Oh, we got a $16 sale on a film strip repair splicer block, whatever that might be. A lot of sales, a lot of interesting sales. I'm going to be busy when I start work Monday morning early. Tune in. I got a good question in a while back, and I've been holding on to it for the next time that I had a free day like this that I could talk about it. It may be a part 1, part 2, part 3. This is a big subject. I started to think about it, and I started to think about some of the directions I could go to talk about it. And it would be really easy for me just to talk a few hours on this. I'm not sure if all of it will be of value or if this talk is for everybody, but the title, which I haven't come up with yet, will pretty much say what it's about. And I'll just read this question and then I'll set it up and I'll go for it. I also have been warned that I'm cooking tonight. I make meals. Breakfasts are kind of a free-for-all around our house. And we've got some young breakfast entrepreneurs that cook some pretty good breakfasts from time to time and serve them up. We've got a breakfast plan. That's a good meal of the day. Lunches, again, are more of a free-for-all. Lon takes care of the 6 and the 5-year-old on both of those. And then Lon, bless her heart, she makes dinner 5 days a week, sometimes 6 if we don't go out to eat. And I give her a break, which is just a little break, I understand. I give her a break on Sunday night, and I make dinner for everybody on Sunday nights. So that's tonight. I've been warned that we don't want to eat at 7 o'clock, though, because there's a Kansas City-Denver game on. So I heed those warnings. I got to keep this rolling. I could talk forever. The gift of gab. Okay, here's a question. Great video. We were wondering if there has ever been a time when you've had to completely overhaul your business. You always share all your success, and it's amazing. Some of us have not had that type of success yet, and we were wondering if you have ever experienced the downward slope of sales and moving merchandise, etc., and what did you do? Thanks for always sharing. We really appreciate it. So that's a good question, and I guess just to start it out, we've been fortunate, and obviously there's some work involved and some timing and all that to have a certain level of success in this business now for about, I don't know, I'd have to map it, but about 5 years running, solid. I've been full-time for 5 or more years. Uh-oh. It's my 4:30. I've always got to be somewhere at 4:30. Except on Sundays and Saturdays, but the alarm still goes off. Been fortunate to have full-time business, full-time success, really growing but steady, better and better profit margins for about 5 years. The 20 years of my working life previous to that, I've had some successes, and I've had plenty of learning and plenty of failures. So the reason I show and talk about all my successes, and I guess, I'm trying not to be like, whoa, we're really doing it here. Although I think we're doing a good job. I think we can do better. I think there's more things we want to accomplish in this business. This business feeds two things. It feeds our family, and it's an experiential thing, and so that's important. But obviously, feeding the family is important as well. So we don't have a lot of day-to-day disasters in the business and big bad things that happen. We're sort of insulated on that, but it wasn't always that way. I'll talk about one here, and I'll try to just veer off a little bit to the side and keep it going, and then I'm just going to snip it off, and I'll have to think. My gears are always turning in the background, and a lot of times if I just sleep on something, the ideas come to me on how I should talk about that or handle that in my business or with a relationship or things like that. So if I keep going too far with this, maybe it won't be as valuable. So I'll cut it off here, hopefully at 20 minutes from now or so. That's easy to say. I got my eyes on the clock there. I got a fresh battery. So we moved to our current town almost 10 years ago. I think either this last summer or next summer will be 10 years. Let me think. 2016. I bet it was 10 years this year, this June. We moved to the Colby, Kansas area. That's where we currently live. Northwest Kansas. We've got Nebraska to the north. We've got Colorado to the west. We're right sort of in the corner of Kansas, the northwest corner. And when we moved out here, my tail was mostly between my legs. I had a couple business things that didn't go as planned. 3 years previous to that, it was a really interesting and tough 3 years. And moving into this area, we looked around for 5 years, and then it just so happened that we had a good break point and we were backpedaling a little bit. We wanted to go to a slower pace. We found a place that was cheap enough to live. We liked the climate. We liked the location. We liked the idea of a small community for our family. It just lined up partially with what we wanted to do and partially with the timing. Financially, we were backpedaling a little bit, and I'm not going to talk about that previous right now, but if you go through all my videos, you'll get hints and whispers, including, I think, before we did the Crazy Picker Life daily vlog here, which we're on episode 154, I think. Before that, we did 10 or 12 shows, and one of those was sort of my story from beginning to end as far as business and such. So I think that would be a good one if you want to get all those details. So we moved here, and my first inclination is, what am I going to do? I need some instant money. And so I did not want to be an entrepreneur. I just needed to look around and find something to do that had some money attached to it. And so let's see, when did I start? It's a little foggy, but one of the things I did is I had to get a job. I had to get a job that was going to pay the bills and maybe help us make some headway on some debt and really allow us to backpedal. I actually had a Porsche Cayenne when we moved to town, and the problem is a company was paying for that before we moved here, and when we moved here, I was stuck with the payments, the insurance, and out here you got to pay tax on the vehicle every year. And so, wonderful car, but a lot of overhead. We were able to find a very inexpensive place to live. I think, can't remember if we had another vehicle. I think we just had the one vehicle when we came out. Can't remember. We had some junkers after that, but I needed to get a job. I worked for Schwann's Home Delivery 5 days a week, 12 hours a day. Wow, I did that for a year, and that was enough. Now, on the outside of that, I needed to start figuring out something to do. And to speed this up a little bit, I was in a company that sold high-end air purifiers. It was Alpine Industries, and then it became EcoQuest, and then it is now Volera. High-end air purifiers. I was sold on the project. It does clean air. It is a nice product. It is a high-dollar product. There's a lot of margin in it. It was hooked to a direct selling or a network marketing. I did very, very well. I used a system of being on the phone with people and building relationships, moving products, meeting people at different meetings throughout the country. I did very, very well. What I didn't like about it is I couldn't duplicate myself very well. And it ended up being a learning curve for a lot of people, a learning curve for myself, and ended up filling some people's garages with more equipment than they should have had. Could they have done it? Yes. It's just that whole thing is a whole nother discussion. But the point is, I did very, very well. I feel I was very honest in that business. I really tried to help people. I did help some people. The system is just, the direct marketing system has a lot of problems with it. So I had some health things. I had some burnout things. I had some waking up of conscience things that, hey, this is not really what I want to do. And I left that. And I did like the product a lot. And so what I started to do is I started a different approach. This is 2006. And so obviously World Wide Web is in effect. There was past the dot-com boom bust of 1999, 2000, 2001. Websites, creating content. I created a website for air purifiers, a selection learning tool, and I monetized it. And I spent 6 months very aggressively making this website. I knew a lot about websites. I knew a lot about air purification. It was a pretty good website. It got pretty good traction. It was growing. I monetized it. I found I was not that passionate about it, though. I mean, it was like head in the computer 6-8 hours in a row every day to try to get this thing going. And after 6 months, I think I was making like $500 a month. And I'm like, I gotta step back. This is not doing it. This is not, I can't live on $500 a month. I'm burning out in this job I'm in. What the heck am I gonna do, right? So in doing it though, I did stumble back on eBay again. I had been on eBay since '99. I had sold things for my family business from 1999 until whenever. I had sold DVDs at one time for for 6 months and got that up to a certain point. And then, the DVDs became a commodity and it was hard to compete with anybody because you would buy them for $8 and have to sell them for $11. And by the time expenses were out of there, you maybe were left with $1. And I didn't see myself shipping 5,000 DVDs a month. That was just insane, I thought, oh, smarter, not harder. But anyway, I had been on eBay, but when I did this website, I found affiliate links where you could talk about a product, recommend a product, put some links on there, and then people would click on the links, and if they actually bought something on eBay, you would get a small percentage of that. And it worked. So I was recommending several air purifiers, including the EcoQuest, and people would go there and they would buy them because I recommended them, and I'd get a $15, $20, $25 hit. I didn't have to touch anything, and on and on. It was reasonably intensive to set this thing up. You had to go through the listings and make sure what was there, and it was intensive. I was leaving a whole different world, and so the idea of leaving this world where I was talking to people 10 hours a day to now I'm facing a computer 10 hours a day, and I'm out in the cold selling cold food to people in the wilderness of Northwest Kansas. I had a lot of things going on. I mean, it was a dynamic, tough time. I've never slowed down ever. But so I did this for a while, and I noticed that there was a lot of stuff being sold on eBay, and I'm like, okay, light bulb went on. Bing! There's a lot of people out there with these air purifiers in their garages. They didn't sell them. They didn't want to go talk to people. They didn't want to do demonstrations with people. They didn't want to buy advertising and call people on the phone. They didn't want to do any of that. They didn't want to do direct sales, even though great product, does sell itself if you set it up and get in there. They didn't want to do that. Not everybody wants to get in your face, right? Not everybody wants to cold call people, qualify people, all that stuff. Very few people really want to do that. Whether it works or not, they don't want to do it. They won't do it. So people had these things, 2 machines, 3 machines, 6 machines, 20 machines in their garage, right? Light bulb goes on. How do I get to those people and buy their machines? And then I will take them out of the box, test them, make sure they are what they are, guarantee them, sell them on eBay, right? Binga, binga, boom. Well, literally overnight, I was able to quit my job. I was buying and selling these things like mad. I would search Craigslist because people would dump their inventory on Craigslist. Nobody was buying it. I was buying it. I would buy these things sight unseen. I would send them a little message on Craigslist. This was before, Craigslist was a mega scammer zone. Back then, it was bad, but it's not so bad as it is now. I would send people shipping labels to ship them to me. I would talk to them on the phone. I would pay them. I got that thing all figured out, how to get inventory in. Did I have some problems with it? Of course, you're always going to have problems. Some guy sent me an air purifier that had his dirty underwear inside instead of the insides, and then he disappeared. Other people, I would send them one on spec, which was a bad idea, and they would disappear. So I learned a lot of lessons, right? At the peak of that business, and that business was gangbusters for 2 years and 3 months. 2 years and 3 months, the peak of it, which didn't take long to get to, I was selling between $20,000 and $30,000 a month of these machines at $300 a pop. And the profit was excellent. I mean, we were living very lean, which would be a principle I would recommend anybody that needs to start over or anybody that wants to start a business. You need to live really lean. And we were just bringing the money in. In fact, we were able to get out of our apartment. I was involved with some local charity groups. I got my kids out ringing bells, and we did a lot of things in the community when we moved here because we wanted to see if this community was the kind we wanted it be in. So I met some people, and through that, I was able to get financed on our current home without a bank. I never went bankrupt, but my credit was way out of whack. I had way too much debt, blah, blah, blah. So I made a contact. I was able to buy this house. We moved into the house. I was able to set up an office. Things were good. Lon went to work finally because our kids were finally getting to be out of baby stage. And things were really good, right? We got nicer cars. We got rid of a few clunkers. The Porsche was long gone. I had to back out of that and take a hit on it. It was too small for us, and whatever. But when you're in the glitz and glamour of crazy direct selling and network marketing, they want to throw a Porsche Cayenne at you and cruises and trips and all this stuff. I mean, it's hard to think straight. You just go. So anyway, what went wrong, right? How could it go wrong? Well, what went wrong is I got a little too comfortable in this little narrow niche of air purification. I just went straight and narrow and attacked this thing. And I did buy some, what brand were they? Shackley actually had a brand of air purifiers that was decent, that I could get a hold of in the same way as I could get a hold of the EcoQuest. There were a few other IQ Air and a few other high brands that I experimented with buying and selling, but the margin just wasn't as good. And I usually could only get them onesie twosie. I looked at becoming an actual legitimate distributor, but once you're selling on eBay and on the internet, it's, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. There's a lot of pricing regulations when you want to be a legitimate seller, authorized dealer, and there was no advantage to doing it. I'm always looking for an advantage, and I had it, right, with this EcoQuest thing. I was buying these things for $100, $150, $175 and selling them for $350, sometimes $400. And sometimes I buy so many of them, like one time I went out to St. George, Utah. St. George, it's right there on the corner. Is that Utah or Nevada? I don't know. St. George. But it was a heck of a drive. Me and Wheeler went out there and drove straight through. I don't remember. It was through the mountains. It was crazy. We had a U-Haul. It's like 20 hours out there in this underpowered U-Haul. We met with these people. We bought 100+ machines and a bunch of other stuff they had. Filled up the whole U-Haul and pretty much drove straight back. And that was just like, I think I aged 5 years in that trip. Poor Wheeler. Oh, he tried to stay up with me, and he was a lot younger. This was, 2008, 8 years ago. So he would have been like 9 or 10. He's been with me since the beginning, one way or another. No wonder he's so crazy. A lot of good experiences he'll remember. His memory's not that good though, so I don't know how he'll remember him. Maybe they'll come to him someday. So, we were just buying a lot of these things, right? So what could go wrong? I didn't branch out. I didn't think about rummage sales. I didn't think about thrift stores. I thought about buying and selling tumbleweeds since we got a lot of tumbleweeds, and I thought, wow, a movie set's got to want those. People got to want those. So I didn't see anything else, and we didn't leverage ourselves like I had previously with the Porsche, and we had a lake house, and I had a couple of wins. I had a couple of things go like Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters, gangbusters. Yeah, it turned into Ghostbusters. And so we were leveraged. We didn't leverage ourselves this time, but I still had plenty of debt, and that was heading in the right direction. We had just bought a house, which was a money pit. Needed a lot of work, still needs a lot of work. 4 kids, it was a little bit later when we added number 5 and 6, but plenty of overhead. Got to keep the vehicles up. You want to do a few things. Those were really pretty lean years, but still, with food and overhead and everything else, our monthly expenses were high enough. So I kept track of the company quite a bit, and they were EcoQuest was positioning themselves. They had hit a little downturn. They had spread themselves a little bit too wide. They were positioning themselves to sell to a bigger company or a different company. Volera, which is an offshoot of some, I can't remember now, but a vacuum cleaner company that had a hit infomercial with a vacuum cleaner of some kind or whatever. Oh, a big company, a long-standing equipment company. And by the way, Volera seems to be doing really well right now in the direct selling. They took a long time to come around and get it going again, but going pretty well. And those things go through cycles. So they're getting ready to sell, and they notice that there's some leaks out there. When a company goes through a slower period, they start looking for fingers to point, and when they're going to go sell their company, they want to shine up their image, right? So there were some distributors that were starting their own companies. There were distributors that were disgruntled. There was the original designer of the air purification for them that started Alpine. He was starting his own thing, and so they had sort of a lawsuit there. There was also the market that was the reselling market on eBay. And the problem with that, and with any retail type situation, is if something is selling for $699 or $799 retail, and you can get the same darn thing somewhere else on the internet for $300 or $400, there's a problem. Now, obviously, when you buy it retail, you get a warranty. You get the customer, the company backing. You might get a rep or a distributor that's your buddy. When you buy it on eBay, there's less of a warranty. There's less of a back end. You sort of just get the product. So, but EcoQuest took notice about the eBay thing, and they didn't like it. They didn't like people selling their merchandise on eBay. They didn't like people dumping their merchandise on eBay. They didn't like people joining EcoQuest and then dumping their inventory when they couldn't make it on eBay. They didn't like any of that. And so I don't know exactly how they did it. They paid big bucks to this Vero program on eBay, and they got that behind them. And all of a sudden, wham! EcoQuest is now outlawed. Any new machines, I think you could still sell used machines. You can't sell them on eBay. Bam, one day you can, the next day, bam, you can't. And if you did, and most people did for a little while, including myself, strike one, strike two, wham, your account is now disabled. For a week, first of all, like a slap on the hand, and then the threatening, and wham, you can be off. And so I had like a couple accounts. I think I took hits on more than one account. And the problem is I didn't have enough other things going on, enough other income streams, no other products, or very few, where my sales went from $20,000 a month. I think the next month after this, I think I sold like $1,500, and it was through old customers, and it was through a little bit of creative experimentation, selling on eBay, and I think maybe through my website a little bit. And I think it went on for 2 or 3 months like that, more or less. And so let's just say my bills every month were $5,000. And the business obviously had some equipment, not really leases, but there were some things I had for the business that I still had to pay for. Phone lines and, my internet and my website stuff and my merchant. I had a merchant account and a few other things that at the time made sense for the way I was doing business. UPS account, had pickup at the house, So I had some overhead. So instead of making headway on debt and all that kind of stuff, now $3,000 or more a month, I got to go backwards. And I'm still trying to make it with my business, which means cash flow is all messed up. I mean, just... And the whole Vero thing, the company did sell, and then they changed their name to Volera, and then it was okay after that. The whole thing sort of recovered, but I mean, I just was floored and fried and devastated. I mean, Lon was all upset, obviously. Our bills were all upset, obviously. I had all this inventory sitting there. I had bills sitting. I mean, it was a bad knee-jerk time. It was bad, you know. And like I said, we just moved into this house. We had plans. We were starting to, want to repair some things on it. We had dreams and projects. We had planned a vacation where we hadn't been able to take one for a while. Kids in diapers. Oh my goodness, And we had just went through this a few years before. And we had went through it again a few years before that. So we had a couple of these letdowns, and we had somehow made it through it, but it really wasn't that we were fooled. We were in the prosperity growing phase again. And so, man, I had to pick myself up, I had to figure out how to get out of that. And maybe the part 2 of this is talking about some of the things you can do to get out of it, because I think I've got to end this for now. But what I did in a nutshell, not really emotionally, physically, or educationally, or business-wise, but just summary. I'm just going to give you sort of a summary what I did. I had to look at it from a number of different ways, but I felt like I was out of options. I mean, I burned my bridge with Schwann's, which was a decent paying job, hard working job. There just aren't a lot of jobs out here that I qualify for that you can make, any money. A lot of the jobs anywhere, you got to start entry level, and that was always the problem of going back to the job market is, could I succeed in it? Sure, but I didn't want to start over. Schwann's, I walked in day one and at least was making like $35,000 or $40,000. Even though you had to work a lot, it wasn't a lot per hour, but you could make it. So I burned that one more or less, and I didn't want to go back to it because it didn't allow me to do anything else. I ended up milking along on the air purifiers for a while, and I started to get my eyes out for the next thing because I was convinced that buying and selling on eBay was good. I just didn't have anything lined up. I ended up getting a job, second and third shift, which would line up with the ability to stay home with the kids while Lon went to her job. And I worked second and third shift dispatching at the police station, and the sheriff's was tied in there, and all the fire truck and emergency was tied in there, and all the regional emergency stuff was tied in there. It was all tied in one because it's just a small community. And boy, was that an eye-opener as well. Oh my gosh. Quiet. Everything's going off at once. Oh my gosh, I couldn't handle that. Plus it was third shift. It really screwed up my sleep. But even though it was $12, $13 an hour, I really liked my boss. I really liked the chief, and I believed in it. I thought I would give it a try. I did it for 6 months. I told him when I interviewed I would do it for 6 months minimum. And he said that's what he wanted me to do, to see if it was right. And there were other candidates, It wasn't right for me. But it gave me a breather, and it got our money flowing again. It got us even keel again. It gave me a chance to look around, and I formulated a better plan. And that better plan started probably, 2008. Somewhere between 2008 and 2009 in there. And maybe I'll talk about some of the things that happened in there. But really what I learned is you can't be a one-horse pony on eBay. You can't just have one product line and expect it to be there forever. The internet changes fast. Things change fast. Don't be a one-horse pony. Now, when I started my business up again, I started it with one thing, but I still had my foot in some other things. And now we're diversified. I mean, cameras and camera gear is a wide plan. We could probably just make it on that, even though, you know, some of it ebbs and flows. Watches are good. General merchandise, that's a whole huge area that we could go in many directions. I'm into these signs now, which is, I'm not going to say hobby, but it's a narrow market. But it's just one of the many things that we're in. And so, you know, that was key. If I was going to do this again, I wouldn't just be a one-horse pony. Now the test strips, I got into the diabetic test strips, buying and selling those. Those were a unbelievable business opportunity again for a while. But it was a lot like the air purifiers. It went like gangbusters, and then everybody caught on, and then it wasn't the same game again. And if I was just relying on that, not to mention I just wasn't that into it. I don't think I would have made it. So I've eased off that and got into some other things. You always got to be looking. Well, I didn't look at my watch, but I can see. Yeah, I got to go cook. I got to go make supper. I don't know if this has been helpful to you. You know, business life is a journey, and if what you're doing is not working right now, or if you've had a similar crash type situation in your business or your job or any part of your life, you can learn from it. You need to learn from it. You do need to pick yourself up. You do need to look around at all your options. You might need to stick your finger in the hole in the dam and stop the water coming until you can decide where you're going next, what your next move is. You know, you may need to lose a little sleep. You may need to have a little stress. You may need to do more healthy things than you've ever done to improve your stamina and your health. You may need to talk to the people you care about and tell them, I'm going to have to set some things aside for a while to do this. You may need to try to get some people on your side. It's all uncomfortable. But I think it's what contributes to your ability to continue on, to do what you need to do day in and day out, to recognize opportunity. It helps you hang with the lows and ride the highs. Hopefully it helps you make better decisions in the future. Wherever you're at right now, you can change it. But you can change it. Don't wait for something else to come along. Start taking the steps. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, whatever it is, you know, you might have to do that. Now, many of you out there are successful, but you might be like me. I've been successful a couple of times, and while I was doing it, it wasn't quite what I wanted to do. Well, you need to figure out what you want to do and start moving towards that. If you don't like what you're selling, you know, figure it out. Figure out something else you like. Otherwise, you're going to be out there. This doesn't really fit, but I like that saying. I think Mike from American Pickers, I'm not smelling what you're stepping in. I just like that. Or I smell what you're stepping in. Funny. If you're not smelling what you're stepping in, you need to look down. If you're smelling what you're stepping in and you don't like it, you need to be walking somewhere else, right? All right. I appreciate all the comments. This comment that came in was a good one. Maybe if anybody likes this, I'll talk about it more sometime. This is not a good question or talk like when Wheeler and I get together and do end of the month questions and answers or something like this. So I'll do it in a setting like this on one of my low days or one of my days off. Monday's a work day. Tuesday's my day off this week, I think. Is it? Yeah, I think so. Wednesday's a work day. Thursday's work on the business. Friday's a work day. Saturday's a work day. We'll see what's going to happen. I've got to write some things down because I've got some balls in the air that I got to make sure I keep moving in the right direction with this building project and with this new pick honey hole thing that I got to make sure I get on before the snow flies. Thanks for watching. Pick well and list often. People have said I've been missing that. Thanks for telling me. Dealer out.
Hey, Wheeler. Dealer Production.